This conference will now be recorded.
So I'd like, this meeting is a design review board in the city of Bisbee for September 2nd, 2020. This is Ben Lepley, co-chair of the DRB, and I'm calling this meeting to order September 2nd, 2020 at 5:32 p.m. I'd like to start with a roll call. Peter Gaffer.
Present.
Stephen Green.
Present.
Yvonne Ponte. Say absent.
Excused.
Oh, okay. Frank Davis is excused. Ben Lepley, I'm here. Sean DeCramer.
Here.
And Leslie Johns. Was that a here or? I guess not. I think it said she was excused. And then we have Linda Santellis.
Here, present.
Yep. Okay, so the staff would like to inform all applicants that all applications on the DRB agenda will require a building permit or sign permit. The design review board approval does not necessarily reflect the views and policies of the State Historic Preservation Office, which controls decisions impacting tax status of designated contributing historic properties. Please review SHPO's policies. If necessary, contact them directly before making any exterior changes to your property. The intent of the design review process as applied within the Bisbee Historic District is to improve and encourage uses leading to the conservation and/or rehabilitation of buildings, structures, sites, objects, and spaces within the historic district while allowing for a vibrant and creative, livable community. It's also to encourage harmonious growth and orderly development, assure future setting, design, and construction that will correspond to and enhance visual characteristics of the district, and to prevent construction, alteration, remodeling from occurring in a manner that would be detrimental to the historic or visual characteristics of the district. Are there any things for letters, emails for call to the public, or anyone present for call to the public?
There was no letters or anything for call to the public.
Okay. Seeing none, I guess we'll go to new business, and we'll start with agenda item 1, application 2062, Bisbee Residential Historic District, non-contributing property number 294, located at 635 Tombstone Canyon, and the applicant is Thora Kalat. Would you like to, is somebody here to speak with us?
I had worked with Brian Hope as my architect on the project. I knew that told me this morning he was driving back from Albuquerque and he wasn't sure if he'd be able to make the meeting.
Okay, let's see.
It looks like he's on.
Okay, let me just pull up that application 2062. Yeah, okay, 2062. Okay, so would you like to, actually, we've seen this application before.
Yeah, hey Ben, it was on our last agenda, but I think we had to pull it because we didn't have a representative.
Oh,
No.
okay.
It was an administrative approval, and she was changing something that was happening to that application. So she put in a new application to show what she wanted to now do for that. So the administrative approval went away and this application came in its place.
Thank you, Nana. Yeah, so I checked out the drawings and the property this afternoon. And to me, I mean, it looks like a definite upgrade to the visual characteristics of the house. Did anyone else on the board want to talk about this project?
Stephen Green. Yeah, I had quite a good look at those drawings too, because I'm actually in Phoenix right now, and not actually being able to go and visit the property, but the drawings to me seem to be aesthetically anyway very pleasing and in keeping with our guidelines.
I agree. I think that the work that's been proposed is going to significantly change the aspect of the building, its appearance, but at the same time still keep that historical aspect that we're trying to keep.
Yeah,
I agree.
I was just going to concur that this is a building that needed a little TLC, and I think that Thoda is giving it that. I'm very pleased to see it.
Yes, I'm glad somebody's taking this on.
Yeah, for sure. I think it needs a big oak tree out in the front. That's what
I
it's
think
missing.
so too.
Big oak or a big cottonwood or something like that. But yeah,
Most
I think it's a great improvement to the house. And with Thora, do you have anything else to add? I didn't really quite give you enough time.
Yeah, no, I had submitted this without really a conversation about the history of the house, and found out afterwards it was a arts and crafts bungalow, which really surprised me because I didn't really see any remnants of it. But going into the house and seeing where an enclosed porch might have been really started to excite me. And I hope to be able to get with Carrie at the History Museum and find some pictures that better explain how people got to a front door in the original house. And in the meantime, though, I did try to reflect the historic narrative that was already going on in the original house. I'm so excited that the original windows are all still there. A couple of them have cracks in them, but I'll, get those replaced or repaired, just the panes themselves. And the flooring has been stripped down to the original Douglas fir, and I had those refinished, and they're looking, in my opinion, mighty fine. So it's an exciting project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it looks really great. I think it just free architectural advice. I would say that the whole house has been like spray painted white.
Yeah.
And I think you'll get that craftsman look back if you were to, on the top part of the roof under the eaves, it looks like there were shingles,
Right.
cedar shingles. If you were to replace those with new cedar shingles, or I don't think there's any way of removing the paint from those, but removing the paint from some of those other elements, it'll definitely get that look back. And then maybe, with paint, different colors of paint, which the DRB does not really do anything about paint, you can really highlight some of those architectural elements. And I think for sure that craftsman look will come screaming right back without too much work, just accenting certain things.
No, it was interesting because when I looked at, I've been thinking about colors, which anyone who's driven past noticed there's a green, sort of square in the front of the building. And that's the colors my neighbors picked out for me. They all across the street wrote me a note and said, this is the one we like. which I took seriously, so I tried it. And after I found out that it was an arts and crafts bungalow, I actually looked into colorways, and it's going to be interesting to try and reflect those colors and do it exactly like you said, Ben, with the reference to the original arts and crafts. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, you might also want to check out the Restoration Museum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you could probably call them. They're closed right now for COVID, but I'm sure you could get an appointment and flip through some things. But okay, great.
Cool. Thank
Does
you.
anyone wish to make a motion on?
I'd like to make a motion to approve DRB application number 20-62 as is.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, and let's see. Let me go through. Sorry, it's my first time. All the. Do we do all the ayes? Yeah. Anyone aye?
Yes.
All
And
those in
then you
favor?
ask for the name.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
nay? Yeah.
Aye.
Any nays? Seeing no nays, application 2062 passes unanimously. Agenda item number 2, 2067 Bisbee Residential. What was that? Okay. 2067 Bisbee Residential Historic District property at 186A Quality Hill. Applicant Kurt Towler. 26. Would you like to, Kurt? I think you're here. I saw your name somewhere. Would you like to speak, introduce this project?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I appreciate your time tonight, so I'll make it pretty brief. I bought this house in December, and I'm right on the corner of the Women's Club parking lot, the city-county parking lot, public lot, and there were 2 immediate problems that I've identified in terms of that living space. One of them is a certain privacy angle. There's a lot of traffic, and the front door is right on the road, basically. So I was concerned about some privacy aspects. Also, the western heat, the sun is pretty brutal. Combination of the sun and termites made the fence and the deck really untenable as a maintenance item. The previous owners, they did a great job rebuilding this house. It's fundamentally only about 10 years old. It's been rebuilt so much. But they used a lot of clear finishes on the wood. So the wood itself was splitting and becoming a safety issue, a trip hazard, both in the winter and every other time. So I did a little preliminary removal before I submitted my application. So I kind of apologize for that, but it was actually a safety issue for that. So my intention with the fence, you can see from the application, is to do kind of an artistic steel fence with a nod to pickets with some curvy steel rods. There's a design piece I saw in Tucson that I really liked. It created some depth, some shadow lines, and I think with a lot of plants behind it, it'll achieve that goal of providing some barrier to the parking lot, as well as and help with some of the sun damage that we get on this parking lot. So that's kind of the big picture overview.
Okay. Great. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have some questions.
Stephen, oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, Linda?
The only question I have, and it appears that it is, as I'm going to ask, is this is actually going to be replacing what's existing. You're taking everything out on that fence, correct? And it's going into the exact same place?
It's going into the exact same place.
Okay, and I see it's stair stepping. What are you doing on the bottom? It's not real clear where it's stair steps, but There seems to be
Yeah.
a large gap there.
Well, what'll happen, and the drawing doesn't do justice because of the registering the drawing to the photograph was it's not my exact science. Basically, it's flush to the pavement, okay? And in that gap, there will be some plants growing, but there will be some air. It's about a 5-inch gap between the tall end and the pavement on
Okay,
each
perfect.
panel set.
I was just wondering about the drainage, but you answered my question. Thank you.
Mhm.
Stefan, I think I heard you
Yeah,
before.
actually, my question was the same with the actual height of the fence too. I'm not certain I see what the actual height of it's going to be.
Oh, it's a 4-foot fence, which I
Oh,
called
okay. Yeah.
Joe Ward, and he said that's the limit on a front
Yeah.
fence.
That's fine. Just the aspect, as I look at it in the photograph or the rendition, it looks taller than 4 foot. That's all I thought. So that's fine. Okay.
I think technically it's 4'5" on the tall side, but I think that might be a small issue. So you might have to have on the tall side be 4 foot, and on the low side be 3'7".
Okay.
Because of the stepping.
Right.
Would that be a big deal, Kurt?
I'm trying to get as much privacy as possible out of this. Literally you're watching, there's a lot of foot traffic, there's a lot of car traffic, and anything I can do to keep some of those night lights, headlights and things like that coming in the window, that extra 5 inches would make a big difference to me. But it's a hardscape. It's also a very hardscape surface there with the parking lot. And so I'm trying to soften this and create some layers between the house and if you're looking at the picture, and granted it's a little hard to tell, between the front door and the fence is literally 3 feet. So there is almost no gap. That's, it's not really a front yard per se. I'm doing what I can with the garden space. So anything I can get out of that, I'd appreciate. But I'll do whatever you guys need me to do.
Hey, Kurt, I share the same problem with you as far as privacy goes and living directly on the street. My concern is, and I bring this up to my fellow board members as well, is that when I look at the regulations, the DRB guidelines that are issued, the approved type of fencing we have is wood, we have wrought iron. Are we stretching the envelope a little bit when we're talking about solid corrugated steel panels? I understand that privacy is an issue. I get that. I have the same problem, and for me personally, I've been trying to work through this issue as well. So it's interesting. I'm speaking more kind of from a perspective like, what do we do here? Because we haven't allowed this in the past on the front of the house since I've been with the board.
I think what Kurt's done is creative and artistic. The roof of the house is corrugated. I think it blends in rather nicely. It's not a contributing structure. I certainly take no exception to it, and I think it's creative. I think it looks good, and in the context of where he's putting it, I think it makes sense.
I would agree with Peter because it's not the house has been so it's not contributing. It might be historic, but it's been so heavily remodeled, as Kurt mentioned. The way I interpret the guidelines is that specifically that part of that fence guidelines, it does definitely exclude certain things like hurricane fencing, plastic fencing, things like that. But I should look at it one more time real quick, but I don't think it excludes corrugated, which is used on other properties. I could be
Ben,
wrong.
I got it open in front of me. No, it does not exclude corrugated. It has the
No, it's not in there.
decorative
Yeah.
blocks, and
Yeah.
it hates chain link, but that's all.
And I would also say that it is kind of a definable style, artistic style. So there was effort put in, which I personally always appreciate, even if it's not a style I would do myself. That freedom of expression, I think to me is important. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, seeing none. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve application number 20-67 as presented.
I'll second that. Stephen Green.
A motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any
Aye.
opposed?
I
One.
am.
Sean. Okay. All right. So that's, how many people do we have? 1, 2, 3,
You got 4 ayes, I think.
four ayes and 1 nay. Okay. Moving on to the next item, item number 3, application 2070, contributing property located at 101 Clausen Avenue. That's Ted Shriver and Margot Walker. Would you like to, you're here, I see you. Would you like to present this project?
Sure. What we're looking to do is a structure on a concrete pad that is part of our parking area. It's across on Shearer Street. It's not on Clausen. It's the back side of our house. Right now, there's 4 concrete slabs for parking and old outbuilding that's there.
It used to be.
And at one time it was a carport of sorts. Anyway, the intent is to build a covering for the car on the one section of the parking area that's closest to the shed. It's 2 levels, so the lower level, we aren't doing anything to that, is closest to our neighbor, so we didn't want to do anything to impede his view or anything. So we're just doing it on the one level that is parking for 2, and it would be up against the existing outbuilding. The houses above that are significantly above it, so it doesn't obstruct anybody on any side. We're working with Brian Hope, and our proposal was to make it in line with the architecture of the home, which is early 1900s home. So it would follow that kind of design. Actually, hopefully it would help break up the solid concrete that we look at. From our back of our house, we're looking at 2 concrete slabs, a new concrete wall, and a slanting concrete slab up to the concrete foundation of the house above it. So it's kind of a mass of concrete. And hopefully this structure would help break that up, as well as improve the look of the area and offer us protection for our vehicles. We've had significant damage done by hail. And then we had 2 cars wiped out totally when the wall fell on them and crushed them both. So we're just looking for, property protection in a way that doesn't detract from the neighborhood or from the integrity of the district that we're in. The work we've been doing on our house, we've just lived here 2 years, it'll be 2 years in September, and we've done a lot of work to the inside of the house to bring it back as best we can to reflect the era of the house. We've had the whole outside of the house painted, as well as all the fencing and everything, just to kind of improve the look. So this is the final thing we'd like to do, is get some kind of protection for our vehicles, so and also hopefully improve the looks of the current parking area, which is basically concrete.
Mhm.
Back in the 90s, before when the original carport became a shed, it was just a grassy area, and then at some point, one of the tenants, one of the owners, built 2 concrete pads, and now we have four parking spaces. So it's been improved upon, throughout the years.
Mhm.
So basically, we're just looking for sun protection, elements, protection from the elements for our vehicles, and a little bit of shade instead of being.
Without building a garage, don't think it's necessary. If you look at the picture, it's quite open. It reflects the design of the house, for the integrity of the house. And that's where we're at. So we're hoping we can get approval on this and move forward.
Okay. There was one letter that came in from Douglas Reiniger, I think a neighbor, and in support of this. Just reading it right now.
I think it was 3 letters in all, with 3.
Yeah, I was told a couple other people sent letters in, but.
Okay.
All in support.
Ben, the rest of them went out in an email to everybody. Every time I received an email from one, I sent them out. So that I think there was a total of 3 to get all together.
Okay.
Yes, that's
do
right.
we normally just summarize those, or do we read those aloud? Forget.
We don't have to read them aloud. You can just say that they were all in support.
Okay. All right. All the letters were in support of the new carport. Are there any comments from the design review board?
I have a sort of a question comment on a technicality. I mean, this is shown as a contributing structure, but in reality, it's across the street from a contributing structure. It's basically a concrete slab. So I think it's misleading to sort of interpret this as modifying something that's contributing. So I think the design is excellent. I certainly am very much supportive of it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I am wondering, to the left of the carport, there's a gray, looks like a shed. Is that your property?
Yes.
That's our property.
And that's where we intend to put the carport, up to that with a matching roof line and material.
The material for the roof, the material of the roof is going to be the same for the carport as is the shed. It's just going to be a continuation.
Mm-hmm.
The way Brian has designed it, it's just going to be slightly above that roof line with the same material.
Right.
And then it's going to be painted. Yeah, we had the shed painted the same as the house.
Yeah.
A nice gray.
And do you know approximately how old that shed is?
That shed probably dates back to the 90s. The property was 1990s. The property was owned by Margot's sister and her brother-in-law, my brother-in-law. they since passed away, and Margot was the estate manager of the estate, and we came down to close the estate up, and we loved it here so much. We packed everything up in Buffalo and moved here.
Wow.
And we love it. So we're very happy.
Great. Yeah, it looks like there were some salvage doors that were placed in those doorways, which is a nice touch. That's why I was wondering. Okay.
Right. Like I said, it used to, it kind of, we have pictures, family pictures, that it used to be a pole type of carport. And then Gary it transformed it into an office and a shed and back. So it's been transitioning through the years, and then Concrete Dick did all the concrete work.
That was probably in the early 90s too, which may be before the design review board. I'm not sure.
And the structural material is, I see it says heavy timber and glulam painted, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It is, and it's 6 by 6, and it is laminate. It is a laminate structure for the beams, and just there's a word for the roofing. It escapes me right now, but
I saw
the
that
contractor.
Is that what it is?
The contractor and Brian Hope knew what it was, so we're just going to continue.
I think it's a type R
yes,
pattern.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
It's a metal.
Yeah, our pattern is where it's flat for about 14 inches, and then there's a single kind of squarish ridge, and then it's flat for another 16. It's kind of a more modern. Now. Yeah, it's a more modern kind of corrugated that's a little bit easier to work with for contractors. So.
Question for you.
Well, we were just looking to keep the same roofing.
What is the roof material on the existing shed or workshop, whatever that is?
It's the same stuff. Yes.
Same stuff.
That's what's on. That's what's on there now, and that's the reason we're using that.
Okay. All right.
Just because it's on there now.
Got it.
I have some questions. You said your property's across the street, so when the wall collapsed, that property belongs to somebody else?
Yes. Well, no, not the property, but the wall was holding, the retaining wall was holding the house above our parking, was holding that up.
So that white house in the background has nothing to do with you?
No.
Oh, no, that white house is
that's Chris Beauvais' house.
Chris Beauvais, she's up on
the
second tier of sheer.
Okay, I had issues, but it was with that.
And our structure is well below. It's not interrupting anything that she would even see.
Below the foundation of her house.
Right, and then Britt. I don't know Britt's last name, but he owns the rental, and it's below that, so it doesn't impede anybody's view.
The other question I have is, it looks like this structure, the roof part, is separate from the shed, right? It's not connected?
Yes, it is. It's not connected. The whole structure is not connected to the shed.
Okay.
It's just above it to get above that roof line.
Okay, those were the only questions I had. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments? Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion in favor. This was a motion to approve application number 20-70 as submitted.
We have a motion, a second?
I'll second.
Sean seconds. Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No opposed. This motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Great.
We
Thank you.
appreciate it. We appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, on to agenda item number 4. That would be application number 2073, located at 41 Main Street. Applicant Rita Ledbetter. Is Rita or somebody here?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. So would you like to introduce your project?
I'm trying to put a sign on that building. It has, the frame is already there, and I'm trying to use the existing frame. And there are two, you should have two pictures of, one is 18 steps, and the other one is the Desert Diva for the hat shop.
Okay. And the 18 steps, is that, are these two different signs you're applying for, or?
Well, it's one frame, but it's two different signs in the frame. Upstairs in that building, the second floor is Airbnb, and that's 18 steps up. And my understanding is there was a restaurant there at one time, and that was the sign. So I chose to keep the same sign from before. And then the hat shop below, she's always wanted a sign and would like to have one now.
Yeah.
So the only difference, she asked if we could add like a rope around the edge of her sign. Just to kind of.
Could you?
Is anybody catching that, or?
You're,
Give it a little more definition.
Rita, your internet connection slowed down after you mentioned putting a rope around the sign. Would you be able to repeat that? If you turn off your video, sometimes it speeds up the audio because you're still breaking up.
Okay, and I missed yours too, so I'll start over.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we got it
is-
from rope around the sign.
Oh. Is that better?
Yeah.
Is that better now?
Yeah. 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 We can hear you now.
Yeah. She just would like to add that for just to frame it a little bit better after she looked at it, and I'd already submitted it. She just would like to, just to put it up a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Any comments from board members?
I have a couple.
Stephen Green.
Oh, sorry.
The sign frame that's there actually is of the historic interest here, and I think there's been lots of businesses go through that building over the years, and that frame has remained there. So we can have a succession of signs that go through the frame, but the historic interest is in that actual frame of the sign. So I think we should allow as long as it's not particularly garish, to go up there.
Okay. Linda, I think you had a question.
Well, and it is my hope to get that sign.
Did you want to repeat that, Rita?
My hope is to use that frame. It's there, it's in good shape, and it makes sense to me to use, try to use what I have.
Is that
Linda?
Is the sign above the canopy?
Yes, it is. There should be a picture of the building. I did picture of the building. And the frame is in it,
Oh, I see
and
it.
it's in between the front windows. Yeah.
Okay, my next question was gonna be exactly where the sign was going, but it's quite small compared to what I was envisioning. Do you know what materials you'll be
Yeah.
using for that sign?
I don't know yet. I've looked at a couple options, but I have been unable to get the dimensions. I've tried to reach out to a couple of the previous owners and they don't have the dimensions. And frankly, it's too far out the window for me to lean and measure. So I'm going to have to get somebody out there and see what would be the best because it's a slide in, to see what would be best to slide in there.
I particularly like the 18 step sign. Do you know how old that is?
I don't know for sure, but I do know when they were remodeling for the Airbnb that we bought it from, it was actually covering the trap up into the attic.
So it could be very old.
It could be.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah,
I like
because that
it.
font, the font and the style of painting to me looks 1910s, 1920s. But yeah, who knows? It could be 1980s reproduction.
Right.
You could probably tell if it's plywood, it's newer than the 1940s. If it's not plywood, if it's solid wood, then it's actually probably quite old. But yeah, it's super cool. I like it. I wish we had more of those around. Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah, before I do, when Linda was asking what type of materials were going to be used, I would just like to make a comment to make sure that we don't use anything like plastic, unfinished aluminum, or any material of a modern origin, and I think it'll be fine. Having said that, if everybody agrees, I'd like to make a motion to approve application number 20-73 as is.
Okay, we have a motion. Second?
I'll second that.
Peter, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any nay? No nays? Mine was an aye. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. On to agenda item number 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Application 2074, contributing property located at 820C Tombstone Canyon, applicant Christy Frank. Would you like to, is Christy here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so would you like to briefly present your project?
Sure. 2 months ago, I had an approval of a design that a lot of people have in Old Bisbee, and it was more, I thought looked more like a log cabin design that was approved, but I ended up going on the guidelines of historic and found a different design for my railings of my deck that is more appropriate to the style of the house. And so I just sent over the design as far as what was in the guidelines, but then found out that I needed to have 4 inches of separation so that no kids could go through because it was a railing. So I'm basically I sent in an approval for an approved guideline, but added 2x2s that will be 4 inches apart. So it goes with the city approval.
Okay. Right. Okay. Any Any comments from the board members?
I'd
So,
like
yeah.
to make a comment, Stephen Green. What's the existing like? Is the existing in contravention of modern code as well? And how much different is the existing, or was the existing, from the proposed?
The existing was in the exhibit back 2 months ago that I submitted, which I did not submit this time again because I just went with the approved guidelines that was in the historic. So it was just a basic railing that was up there that was 4 inches apart. But I ended up thinking I wanted to go with more the design of the house. And so that's why we changed it. And I'm doing the second review on it.
Okay.
I mean, it shows approved in the guidelines and in the historic guidelines, but it shows gates and railings and fencing approval. But when I sent it over to Joel, he said that I had to have 4 inches of like 2x2s in order to prevent a child to go through, and that it wasn't approved. They'd be approved by historic, but not by the city. So basically, I have to go through the steps.
Sorry about that.
I have a question. Maybe I'm a little confused, so I'm just seeking some clarification. So on what's currently there right now, you've got it's going in kind of like a pattern like this. Are you proposing to keep this and then run these 2x2s across it? Is that what's being proposed?
Correct. Yeah, in order to be approved by the city inspector, Joel. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any other design ideas, or was that just one that you wanted, or?
Well, no, I went off of what was approved in the guidelines, in the historic guidelines, because there's only 4 that are listed in there that are approved.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can see that, but
Yeah,
that's that
perfect.
one right there.
Yeah, so I just went off of what's already approved, so it wouldn't be any kind of an issue.
Right.
But then the city said that I needed the 2x2s that are 4 inches apart to get it approved by the city.
Yeah, so I guess normally that would be used for a porch that's like 18 inches high, or a yard fence or something like that. That's why you had that issue. I would say there are other ways of maintaining that strong X pattern. I would say design-wise, those horizontal bands kind of take away, aesthetically speaking, from that by using 2x2s. You would be able to use what's called remesh, which is a solid steel wire that they use for putting in concrete slabs, or something like a goat pen wire. Heavy
I
gauge
would love
wire.
that, but I thought that was not approved. That's exactly what I originally wanted, but I was told I couldn't use that. So that would be amazing.
I would say that if it's secure and you have that X, and that X is a dominant feature, and the wire mesh was behind it, closer to the house, and was painted black or something, you wouldn't even see that wire mesh, as long as Joe Ward signs off and says that it's strong enough to keep a toddler with a temper tantrum from going through.
I agree. I know what you mean, but I think structurally that the cross gate is going to provide every bit of strength that you're going to need to reinforce, as it were, the hog fence or whatever material Christie elects to use. But yeah, I agree. mean, the,
As long as
the
it's
house
not
on the
hurricane
bluff
fencing.
kind of hideous. And I feel sorry that Christie has to do that. It's code. So, but I think what you are proposing, Ben, would make it work very neatly.
Oh my God,
in
I
that
love
case,
that mesh, because I actually had it. I bought it thinking I could do the mesh. And then when I submitted the roll of it, I thought it was submitted 2 months ago, and they said no wire or metals could go into railings like this. So then I had to kind of change things up.
Was that a safety, a comment on safety or a comment on
No,
design?
it was by historic, because Joel did not say anything about that, because I ended up putting it up just in the meantime, just for safety purposes, because I didn't want the deck just to be sitting there with nothing around it, just even if anyone came up the steps. So I asked if I could put up this mesh, and he said, yeah, that's okay. So I did that. But historic, I believe I was told that I could not use that, meaning the review board, because it was wire.
So the review board said that, or
well, that was 2
Teresa?
months ago. I received something in writing that I couldn't use any kind of metal or mesh because it didn't go with the historic.
Hey,
I would.
Nina, I have a question for Nina.
I'm looking right now back through my emails because I don't remember that per se.
Well, that would be great, because I would love to do the mesh what Ben suggested, which I think is great.
There was a stop work order issued by Joe.
Correct.
I would have to run through emails. I can't remember the date, but I would want to say it was back around maybe April, May.
April. Yep, exactly. Middle of April.
Yeah, there was a wire mesh being used, and I remember seeing the email and getting the pictures.
Yeah.
And my response to the city at the time when I received the email on the administrative approval, when the X pattern, the crisscross pattern of the wood was approved, I wanted to make sure that the mesh was not used in any way, shape, or form, because it is not in accordance to our fencing regulations or our porch regulations. So I don't know where that puts us, but I do know that that was basically the history behind it and the comments that I had issued on the stop work order and then the administrative approval.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But if you can all agree upon a certain type of mesh, I would love that, because I think it would look great and it would solve a lot of problems in what I have to do in order to apply city standards.
I think for me at this point, my concern is either approach you take. I don't think it's gonna keep the historic guidelines in place that we operate under and that we're here to work with. And I think we have to find a solution. I don't know what the solution is, because I don't think the 2x2s going across there are going to look aesthetically pleasing as well.
I finally found the administrative approval, Sean, I'm sorry. So Teresa administratively approved it to have 4x4 posts, 2x2 spindles, 4-inch on center, and 2x4 rails.
Yeah, that was the original one.
And that's what Teresa approved.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nina.
You're welcome. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So, I would suggest, just architecturally speaking, just purely design wise, that if the X and the vertical posts are in front of the wire, that they would visually be the dominant feature, and if the wire was a darker color or natural color, it would actually disappear from
You won't
view.
see it. Exactly. You will never see the mesh until you get within 5 feet of it.
And then I would say also that having those 4-inch 2x2 pickets, for lack of a better term, spindles, definitely visually takes away from that X. So that's, I would, my personal design view, taking into account the historic nature of the X, would suggest that in order to bring it to code. So having a steel wire behind, that's visually not as distinct, but secure enough to meet code with the existing X that's already there. So that's my design suggestion. And Sean, what do you think about that? Are you opposed or?
I am.
Okay.
I'm also opposed to the proposed 2x2s. Unfortunately, I think what we have is a situation here is this didn't get before the actual board before the work was completed. Or even done. It was, it was done on an administrative approval, and it was done exactly in accordance to, the DRB guidelines. But unfortunately, the application doesn't meet the code for a port range. So I don't know what the right answer is then.
Are there any other opinions or suggestions? Maybe from Linda? What's your take?
Architecturally, I agree with, was it Mr. Green? And I mean, really at this point, it's the lesser of two evils, I think, and the mesh to me it would be more invisible than if you put those 2x2s that are gonna look awful. The only concern I have is actually more safety, where when they install that, make sure that it's sort of rolling all the way around so that nobody cuts themselves on it, like children, especially if it's on the inside of the deck.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that that's a better solution than these 2x2s.
So Linda, the mesh comes in rolls that are like 25 feet. So the metal will be up against the house, and then one area that I would put a 2x2 to cover up the ends of it, so there would be no ends that would cut anyone.
And that would be fine. You wouldn't even have to go that large, but yes.
Well, I do like to have it finished nicely so that it wouldn't look like just sitting, like the ends sitting there, like it all ran together as one. Sorry, I've got a train going by.
Okay.
That's my only comment.
Okay. Well, it looks like 3 of us are in agreement on that. So kind of leaves Sean out. But I mean, that's the nature of design. So that's just kind of how it is.
Can I just come in there with my 10 cents on this? The X-shape design that's in our design guideline suggestions doesn't have any code issues because it's something that would have been there historically. Now, if this house had had that design on there it would still be there today, and our applicant would be able to just repair and replace accordingly and keep it the same. Now, if we're going to insist on putting something that's going to visually destroy that, we're going against what we're here to support. So I think putting some kind of low visibility mechanical safety net behind it is perfect. And that mesh, that building mesh that's being talked about, sounds to me that's just right. You could even get a galvanized version of it that would be very long lasting and still be able to be painted. So rather than insisting that they have the 4-inch pickets, I think I'd like to support the suggestion that Ben put forward.
Yeah.
Here's another question for you, and I don't know if somebody. I don't want to have to see Christy go back and redo this entirely. I don't want anybody to think that I'm taking that type of position. If we sit here and say right now that she can put some type of wire mesh behind it, is she still going to have problems when it comes to the city on the city side?
Yeah, what I would need to do is I would, tomorrow I can email Joel, because he even looked at the mesh, and see if that is approved. You're right, Peter, absolutely. I think he will approve it, but.
See, that's another thing. So my question is I almost wonder, do we table this for 30 days? Let Christy do her homework with Joe to find out what's going to be acceptable. And also if we get a picture of this type of material before the board so we can all see it, so we can kind of visually see what we're dealing with, I would definitely be in favor of it then, and I would definitely throw my support into it.
Well, that holds me up for another 30 days. Can I just get you the mesh and talk to Joel tomorrow and give this information to Nina? Because that would put me out for another month.
So I've got an image here. Let's see if I can.
Yeah, in the last 2 months ago or 3 months ago, I put the wire in. There it is. Good job. Thank you, Ben. That's exactly it.
So Christy, if you can, I know that Joe's out, but I'm sure you can send him an email. But if you can go ahead and ask him what gauge wire he needs and then comply with the code. I think at this point, just coming from risk management and liability to a homeowner, you're going to want to do something, even if it's temporary, whether it's some sort of mesh, because I saw kids' toys up there. And, I would hate to see this continue, but if you can get approval of that mesh and just get the gauge, because that's probably what's going to hold it back, how thick it is.
Exactly.
If we were to table it, aren't we having, Nina, another meeting on the 16th?
Yes,
special
sir.
Meeting to
We're gonna have
review
a special meeting on the 16th. Yes, sir.
That would only hold up the applicant for 2 weeks. Would that be acceptable? We could make that an agenda item for that meeting, in addition to the code review, the standards review. Just a thought.
Are you asking?
Are you asking me?
If you want to hold it up, Ben, or anybody else, what you can do is put it in the motion that it depends on Joe's approval of that. And if not, it'll have to come back to the board.
I can make a motion if there's unless there's any more comments. Okay. I'll make a motion to approve application 20-74 for the replacement of railing with the addition of remesh that meets code safety requirements, both for 4-inch spacing, but also for weight of pressure from behind the fence, as would be approved by Joe Ward, building inspector. And I would also say that that remesh would have to be on the house side of the X railing that's already built, so that it is not visually distracting from the design. That's my motion.
I'll second that, Ben.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that's 2. Nay? Oh, 3. Oh, Linda was.
Sorry, I was on silent.
Yeah, let me do that again. All in favor? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Christy,
Hey.
I'll make sure that Joe has this motion in the morning, and I'll tell him that I'll email him because he is coming in and out, even though he's on vacation. And I'll see if he can let us know about the code for that.
Oh, fantastic. You're wonderful. That would be the best solution on all parts.
I'm glad we were able to uncover that. Took a
Yeah,
little
I
digging,
mean,
but
me too. I really do. I really appreciate going out of the box with this because I really did not want to do that at all. So thank
Well,
you.
okay, great. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 6, approval of the minutes of August 5th, 2020. Any comments? No? Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 5th, 2020 with no changes. All in favor? Say aye.
Second.
You need a second on that first.
I need
Oh,
a second.
sorry.
I'll second.
Okay. Sean, second.
So who am I going to go with for the second? I'll take
Whoever you
Sean.
want.
I'll
Sean,
take Sean.
yeah.
Give it to Sean. He's had a bad evening.
No?
Okay. All right. Any nays or all in favor? Say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion passes unanimously. Next item. Any comments? Staff comments?
The only thing I
Board-
wanted to tell you is that the buildings that we talked about, the public buildings being vacant, will be brought back up either on the special session on the 16th or at the next regular meeting on the October. But I just didn't want to discuss it without Teresa and Frank being here, since she had all the details with that. And then the other one about the fences and the windscreens will also be then too. We did send a letter out to Cynthia Conroy regarding that the DRB would be willing to make a compromise, and I sent her an application and asked that she fill it out and come forward to the board. But that's all the comments I have.
Okay. And would she have to, would you still need the same lead time? What is it, like a 10-day lead time, 7-day lead time? So you can post that if she does send in an application?
I don't think I have to do a 30-foot notification. I haven't had that indication that a 300-foot notification. I haven't had that
Okay.
indication. So it would just be the regular, which if, as long as she got it 10 days prior to the meeting,
10
it would
days.
be on the next agenda.
Okay, great. Well, I sure hope she does that, and we can end the saga with an agreement. That would be amazing. Okay. Yeah, and I'll make a comment on one of the administrative approvals in that day. Are there any agenda items anyone wants to discuss either at the special meeting or the next regularly scheduled meeting?
I actually have one, and this is just something that's going to probably sound pretty crazy. I would actually like us to discuss, and I don't know if there's anything that can be done about it. The new DRB application fee is now $75. We went from 25 to 75. Overall, just kind of just more of maybe a discussion. Is that too much, especially for somebody that's just putting a railing around a porch? Is it a little too high? My concern is what could possibly happen is that at that dollar amount, people are going to just start trying to bypass the DRB and going through that process because it is a little bit steeper now.
Right, Sean, I'm not sure if that's the scope of the DRB, but I certainly will bring it up to Teresa and ask her. The fines are actually done through how we did it through the ordinance. Now it's done through a resolution. But the mayor and council does have to approve any of the fines that are changed, or not fines, fees that are changed. But I would like to point out that that fee had not been updated since the design review board had been put into place. And so if you look around, we tried to do a compromise for our surrounding areas that had historic districts and what they actually charged. So we thought that that was a fair compromise, but I will see if it's something that the DRB can discuss. I'm just not sure if it's your scope.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Appreciate the feedback.
I think we could probably discuss it. I don't know if we can do anything about it besides write a letter to the council.
Right.
Right. But that's where things start.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
I'll make sure of that and put it on. Do you want it on the special or did you want it on the regular?
You can do it on the special. I'm sure it won't take long to figure out. It's just something that was brought up and.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
no,
I brought it up, Sean, because I wondered about that. I know I need to get a few of those. So when I talk about
yeah, and maybe we can suggest something like 2 tiers of fees, which I think maybe there already are. But anyways, okay. So
Just a question.
Yeah.
Curious. Has the fee? That's for the basic DRB approval, but when it has to go out to the neighborhood, that was always a higher fee. Has that increased as well?
Yes, sir, it has. It went from $100 to $125. But we also have to keep in mind that the cost of stamps and all of that has to be done. And some of these properties have over 100 recipients to that. So we thought that was fair to make it 125.
Yeah, I'm surprised that wasn't proportionally increased because of the extra. Yeah, I realize there is a lot of work involved.
Right. And so we try to make it comparable, so there wasn't extremes for people to pay. So we just tried to make it as easy as possible. And I will bring that up to her. But again, we had not changed those fees since the DRB had been first put in place.
Okay. Thank you.
Interesting. Long time.
Yes, a long time.
Would that, okay, yeah, I'll ask it next time. Okay, great.
We'll need a motion for adjournment and a second, and then all ayes.
Are there any other agenda items that anyone wants to bring up for one of the next 2 meetings? Seeing none? Oh, okay.
I think we've got them all future agendas, so I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Actually, I'd like to bring up 816 Tombstone Canyon. I think that's the house that was abandoned forever. Had the holes in the roof. I might be getting the address wrong. 805, sorry, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was fixing to ask, if it was 805.
Property.
Yeah,
I'm
I'd
impressed.
like to.
This pretty quick this meeting.
I'd like to get Joe Ward or Teresa to just give an update on that ownership of that property. I do see improvement with there, but there's a long way to go. Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Seeing many seconds, I'll just pick Sean. All in favor? Yeah.
Aye.
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 Any nay? Okay, motion adjourned. All right, guys.
Good night.